So let's just imagine that when you're younger, you're on your bicycle, you're riding, and you're having fun, and then you come off like most of us do, right? You get in a bicycle, or you're doing a thing, and you have an accident. So when we have that accident, often what happens is we go into some kind of a shock, but the people around us, the adults, don't recognize that we're in a shock, and they might even applaud us for being tough and getting through it, and not crying, and all those things. But the problem is that they don't recognize the cues in the body. They don't recognize that what our body is saying is very different to what we might be telling our parents. And because of that, we hold that experience in our system, in our bodies. So that even years or decades later, you might still find you get in that bicycle and you have the same experience. Things tighten up, they constrict. And because of that, every time you're in that situation, or you're reminded of that past experience, your nervous system responds, and that's how triggers work, right? We are exposed to something, and in our environment or other people, and what happens is then our nervous system goes into kind of an activation, and we don't recognize that that's absolutely automatic. We're not choosing it; it happens by itself. So what we really need to do is, whatever the trauma is, whatever the past experience is, and it can be so small or even big, it's not about what happened to us, it's about how we experienced it, how our bodies experienced it. So what we want to do is get back into our bodies and start to recognize what's going on in our bodies. And the only way we can do that is to really tune in and to learn the language of the body. The language of the body is sensation. So we learn to pair words, sensation words, with actual experiences in the body. So tightness, constriction, temperature, pressure, all those kinds of words are signals for the body, signals for the energies in the body. And if we can learn to stay with the body and stay with those experiences in the body, then the body by itself will regulate, will come back to kind of a balance, so that those past experiences eventually we can get to the root of, and we can heal them. So as with a bicycle metaphor, that's exactly it, right? You had this experience, you came with the bicycle, your mum or your dad said it was okay, and you're a good little boy, good little girl, you were tough, but they didn't actually get to discharge the energy because the nervous system went into a survival response, and we didn't get to complete the cycle. So actually, it's the most amazing thing, because all we're doing is we're getting out of the way of the body. So when we go back to that memory, we're just carefully and gently opening the memory up so that the body can complete a cycle. And in doing so, the tears might come, and this could be decades later, from a small thing like coming off your bicycle. You might find that you go back there, you go into that shock a little bit, you find out where it is in the body, and then there's some emotion behind it. So you might find that decades later, all of a sudden you're crying about something that happened so long ago, but that's how it works. So that's what we need to do, is we need to pay attention and learn about how our nervous system is responding to the environment, how it's responding to people around us, where we're sensitive, because we're these incredibly sensitive creatures. We're so fragile, so sensitive, and at the same time so resilient, so strong. But if we're not honoring our sensitivity, what we're doing is we're just kind of bypassing and kind of glossing over how things are affecting us. So, and we're always going to do that in hindsight. We're always going to look back and go, oh, isn't that interesting? I was in that situation with those people, or with those sounds, or whatever the case is, and that's what happened to me. So I can start to recognize, I can bring some attention, awareness to how my nervous system is responding to the environment or people around me. And it's always automatic. We don't choose it. It happens by itself. So we can't think that we have this choice. No, our nervous system reads the environment through neuroception. That's the fancy word of saying that we're scanning the environment, what's safe, what's dangerous, and that by itself it's moving us into these protective states. So, and when we're in that state, we can not recognize it for a long time. So what we want to be able to do is to learn to recognize when we're in these states, and then to find a way to come out of them. And Deb Dana's Polyvagal Theory is a very useful map. It just gives us 3 different states: the ventral vagal, the sympathetic, and then the shutdown state. And we can really learn about these states and what helps us to keep us in ventral vagal, which is just safe, connected, or safe enough, and feeling like you can be in life and you can follow what your natural impulses are. Whereas if you're more in a protective state, like sympathetic, fight, flight, and you're more agitated, there's more arousal, you're more likely, and research shows, you're more likely then to see a face that's unfriendly, even if the face is friendly. So if someone walks towards you and they're actually friendly, but you're more likely to perceive them as not being friendly. And right down at the bottom, the shutdown state, if the sympathetic state doesn't resolve, if the danger isn't resolved, then we move right into collapse or shutdown. And that just might feel like life is far away, we're heavy, we're lethargic, it's difficult to move. It comes with obviously a mood, like we might feel depressed, we might feel sad, we might feel lonely. But we want to recognize in the body how these states show up, because if we're going to go back to ventral vagal, we need to go back from shutdown through the sympathetic system and back into safety, ventral vagal. So the brilliance with the polyvagal theory is that it looks at these states as hierarchical. So it's like a ladder. You start at the top in ventral vagal, and we're going to lose safety all the way through our day. We come into safety, we lose safety. So it's fine and natural to lose that sense of safety, but we want to recognize how we're losing it and how to find our way back to it. So we go from ventral vagal, we drop to sympathetic, which is fight flight. So that's more activated, it's more mobilized energy, and we can be a lot in the red or a little bit in the red. But all these three states are happening at the same time. So we can be very strong in the kind of fight flight energy, or we can be like just moderate and mostly in ventral vagal. But we want to keep an anchor in ventral vagal. That's the idea. So that we have a sense of, have a reference to safety, that we're feeling safe enough to be in our life. And if we're in sympathetic and we detect some kind of a threat in the environment or another person, that might be even a very subtle threat, then we want to notice, okay, now we're more in that kind of sympathetic mode, it's feeling more like we're in the red. And if that doesn't resolve, we drop right down to shutdown. And now that's, for me, always the color feels more like blue. It's heavy, it's melancholic, you can feel far away. So each of these states come with a perspective. The world looks a certain way, we feel a certain way. So the trick is to learn to recognize the states, and for yourself, because we each are very unique, and we have, although there's generalized patterns, there's, it's a unique way of responding to these states, and what works for you might not work for someone else. So then the question is, how do we bring ourselves back? And how we bring ourselves back is always a function of resource. What works for you? What do you need? And that's what I'll leave you with. If you're in whatever these states are, you ask yourself this question: what do I need here? If I'm not escaping, and if I'm staying with it, what does my body need? What do I need here? Maybe from shutdown, slow movement, maybe just a walk, maybe something gentle. You don't want to push yourself. Sympathetic, it's more about discharging. You want to release the energy. You want to shake. You want to walk briskly. You want to go to gym. You want to discharge the energy. And then finding resources to find your way back to safety, to come back to this place of ventral vagal, and to give yourself permission. It's okay to lose it. Anyway, thanks for watching. Hope that makes sense. Bye for now.